What can you power with a 1200 watt portable power station? Let's find out. This is the OUPES 1200 watt portable power station. So that means it will output up to 1200 sustainable watts. So continuously 1200 watts. Now they say it's got a peak of 3600 watts. That's pretty stout. That's 3 times the amount for peak. So a few seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. I don't know. We'll find that out for sure. Now battery size on this, or capacity of this, think of fuel tank size as 992 watt hours. So let's just call that 1,000 watt hours. Now let's dive in and see the details of this. We're going to use it in a few different scenarios on where this might work really well. Things like, will it charge batteries? Will it run your lights? Will it run power tools? Will it power your business? This is the OUPES 1200 watt portable power station. It has a lithium phosphate battery in it. 1200 watt continuous output and 3600 watt peak output, which is pretty impressive. So that's saying that basically to triple the output for a short period of time, and we'll for sure test that here in a few moments. Right now we have it charging off our standard outlet, and it's charging at about 185 watts input. It's max 200 watts charging, so whether you're charging with 2 solar panels like the solar panels you see here in the back, because we got this with the kit, with the 2 100 watt solar panels. So you could double those up and plug it in here and get about 200 watts. You're never going to be 100% efficient on your solar panels, but we can get up there around that 160, 180 and be able to charge this rather quickly. Now the manual says it would take 8 hours of charging off of 2 panels, but that math doesn't work. It would actually, if you were getting, let's say, 200 watts of input, and it's only a 992 watt hour battery, so that would be roughly about 5 hours of charging, even if it was totally depleted with good sunshine, to recharge that off a solar panel. So looking at 4 or 5 hour charge time off the solar panels once you run this pretty low to actually charge it all the way up. And the same way with plugging it in, if you run it and totally deplete it, you're going to look at about a 4 to 5 hour window for charging. So while this is 1200 watts of output and 3600 peak, as far as the battery size, it's right at 1,992 watt hours. And you can find that listed on the bottom. We've noticed that about several of these portable power stations. You'll see a lot of those, a lot of that information is posted right there on the bottom of the unit, or you can find that in the manuals and the paperwork as well. Very easy to read screen here, so pretty self-explanatory. It's telling us we've got 99 hours of runtime because we're not pulling anything out. 55% charge on the battery. This ring will also show, once I pull this out, it shows you basically the same. When it's saying 55%, it's giving us 4 out of the 6 pieces of the ring. So whether you want to see a visual or just read the numbers, it's telling us the same thing. We also see what's going out as well as what's coming in. So if you have a camp stove plugged into it, or a coffee pot, or a tool battery that you're charging, you will see the output as far as how many watts it's pumping out at the time. Or you plug a refrigerator into it, you're in the middle of a storm and the power goes out, or after a storm, you want to plug your refrigerator in so your meats don't thaw out and rot. You can do that as well, and then you kind of know, and it'll, you can see that, okay, if I'm drawing 200 watts out, and I know I've only got 992 or 1,000, I know I've only got about 5 hours of runtime on my fridge, and of course that will vary as well. But other things like charging a cell phone, you may get 50 or 60 cell phone charges out of this. In addition to the 120 volt plugs that we have right here, which again is max 1200 watts out, we do get a pure sine wave. So we're not talking about a modified sine wave. So when we are charging our more sensitive electronics, our computers, our laptops, our phones, our tablets, things like that, we don't have to worry about them. We're getting a pure sine wave here. So nice smooth curve that's not going to hurt any of those sensitive electronics. So in addition to the 120 volt receptacles right here, We also have 2 USB Type A ports that are both 3.0, and we have 2 USB-C ports. Now, the USB-C on the left, and it's labeled right here, is a 60 watt max output. So 3 amps at 20 watt, or 3 amps at 20 volts. And the right-hand side is only 18 watts. So if you want to charge that phone fast, be over here on the left-hand USB Type-C port. And then we also have some 12 volts out, your typical round connectors here, and our old, cigarette lighter style 12 volt out as well. Now, in addition to the brick charger that we get that looks like a laptop, I'll pull that over here in a moment, we also get a 12 volt charger. So this would plug into your cigarette lighter in your car, or your auxiliary port. Maybe we don't call them cigarette lighters anymore. Anyway, so we have a cord for that as well to plug in and charge off of your car's auxiliary port also. This is the charger brick here. I believe it's like max 180, 200 watts, something like that. Yeah, 3 amp max. And we saw that there. We're getting 185 watts in. It gets pretty hot, by the way, so you don't want to keep this on the unit or near it. You want to make sure that this is getting some air. And that's pretty typical on all the portable power stations we have tested. But anyway, so this is what the kind of charging brick looks like with your typical cord that plugs in like a computer cord. Now, if we flip this around on the back, number one, we see here on the sides, we have some ports and we have some fans. When we start running it or kind of pushing it, you'll hear the fans kick on. We also have a pretty cool LED light right here on the back. Just push the button, lights up, hit it again, you get a bright mode, and hit it again and you go into a flashing mode. So in an emergency or something, you can turn on that more of a strobe effect or flashing effect. Try to get somebody's attention, hit it again, it's gonna cycle off. So 1 for low, 2 for high, 3 for the blinking, and 4 is going to turn that off. Integrated handle here, very easy to carry this. It does weigh a little bit, so we'll go ahead and get a weight on this. So 24 pounds, 11 ounces, so almost 25 pounds. Let's make sure we're measuring that. Yep, 24 pounds, 11 ounces. And then size of this is 13 inches wide and about 12 inches tall and about 9 inches thick. Let's take a look at these solar panels. We'll go ahead and we'll set them up outside here in a few moments. But just to kind of give you an idea, these are a pretty nice setup. So you can see they fold out very nicely. And these orange pieces here are kickstands. So you can see it, they're Velcroed. And then you have a strap here that limits the movement so it will act as a kickstand. And then you fold it back down to the Velcro, it stays nice and tight. So basically you get a 4-panel fold out, and that's going to give you, it tells you right here, a peak or DC output of 18 volts at 100 watts. And then here on the end has a little pocket for storage, and inside it is your 4th kickstand as well as your cords, and you get a splitter with this as well, so you can tie 2 panels together and then plug this directly into the charger or into the in the portable power station and be able to charge from those solar panels. So I love the fact kind of got a little integrated pouch here, and that's where that 4th kickstand is as well. So really compact, nice setup, nice sturdy design. Fold it up, and now we're ready to go. And let's try one more thing here. I've got a Milwaukee supercharger, and this draws about 6 amps at 120 volts. So you're looking at probably 720 watts or so. And I've got a 12 amp hour battery here. Let me just throw this on the charger. So we'll start our stopwatch here. Yeah, passing 250, 300 watt, right at 290. So I guess not 720 watts. I don't know if that'll warm up or what, but it said 6 amps. And this is basically Milwaukee's kind of beefiest charger, the supercharger. So I don't think you're going to see anything really beyond that. So as far as charging like tool batteries or other batteries, things like that, this unit's going to do absolutely fine doing that. All right, so it's the next morning. We got a little bit of sunlight here. Just wanted to show these panels once again and what type of charge they can put out. Just going to hook one up real quick. So it looks like we're getting about 60 watts off of that panel. Let's go ahead and put both on. So I've got our splitter connected. Yeah, so it looks like we've basically doubled our output to about 120. And again, we've got really early morning sun right now. It's about 9 o'clock. So I would say once that sun gets up a little bit, we get more direct sunlight. We could also angle our panels correctly as well, a little more efficiently, and probably draw some more. But there we have, 120 watts coming in, and to get that other 200 watts, it's going to take us a little less than 2 hours to fill up that battery. And here's one of the cool things about this power station is that I can plug into this while it's charging, and now I'm not only putting in with the solar panels, looks like my shadow's on it, so it dropped a little, but I'm also pulling out, so we can tap the system both ways. So now I'm charging a battery as well as I'm charging this battery with the solar panels.
Are you rolling now?
I am rolling.
Okay,
that's fine.
I didn't want
No, you're good.
to hit, like stop process or whatever. Kind of curious, what did that?
You're at 90, 100. Yeah, the highest you went is right at 99.
I would think that this is definitely like the hardest part on the motor.
Is that initial stage of getting it shaped?
Coned and compressed.
That number on the left is actually how many hours it would run at the current draw. See that 12 over there? So it's basically 12 hours.
79% battery.
Correct. Yeah.
31 watts.
Yeah, that fluctuating number is the watts out. Correct. So many watts it's drawing.
So what are we right now?
We're always going to be delayed a little bit, but right now you're at 40. Yeah, and it went up to about 52.
So I just centered, opened it up, brought up the clay a little bit, and now I'm just going to use a rib. And all this usually is the kind of the lowest power of the wheel, but I'm going to start.
When you're doing the ridge.
Yeah, using the rib, I'm just going to begin to shape this. So that was about 3.5 pounds.
Okay.
Which is a fair amount of clay for a project. I mean, you can see.
Now, when you're at your outdoor shows or where you're typically not having power, what are you usually doing? Either not throwing or
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
If they allow me to have power, which is they always like to because it's a little bit of a drawing card. They like there to be some entertainment value to the weekend.
Right.
And so that's a little bit of what this is. But until this, I just used that little little red one.
Yeah.
And I would just throw very, very small pieces.
So you weren't tripping out. So you're talking about like a tool battery powered
Exactly. Yeah.
little power station, and it would trip it out if you tried something like you're about to do right now.
Exactly. And you go to a larger outdoor, in Florida, the outdoor art festival season runs from about September to May. And you'll see artists all over the place with the little
Honda generators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The little tiny generator. They're very quiet, you know, but you know, you have the small space, you got all these generators running, you just know it.
You're still dealing with exhaust.
Exactly. So this is 3 pounds.
Okay.
So let's just see what this thing can do, because this is.
So it was no problem. 3 pound, that whole thing, it never, not a hiccup, nothing different than if you were plugged into a generator or a wall socket.
Yeah. Now this is 7.5 pounds.
Okay.
So let's see what it. And I'll bear down on it just like I normally would. So
okay.
Just put the clay on the wheel, and now I've got to get this thing coned and compressed and centered. Oh. Guess if I'm.
And is it just purely using its own weight and friction to stick on that board?
That's right. Yeah.
That's why you kind of cleaned it and kind of wet it just a touch.
I have no idea why these are called bats, but this little piece here is called a bat.
Huh.
And it's made of cardboard, just pressed cardboard.
Okay.
So once you get it stuck down on there, then you got to cone and compress the clay up. This is what
and let's see here,
made popular the movie Ghost.
No. Well, I'm not going to help you out.
I'm not Patrick Swayze, and you certainly aren't Demi Moore.
Yeah.
So. All right, so let's gas it up a little bit here.
Yeah, so still you went to about 88 watts. So you're.
And with this much clay, this is as fast as anybody would ever take it, you know.
Okay.
Just, I mean, you got to be in control of this piece of clay, and you don't want it to go.
Yeah.
You know.
And even, you know, back to the generator, and not to knock a generator. Listen, one thing about a generator, you refuel it, keep going.
That's right.
But you're dealing with fuel. Whether you have to take fuel or not, there's fuel in it, and you have to be cognizant of in and out of your vehicle. And so having fuel and oil can be a hindrance.
Mm-hmm. And some of these outdoor artists, I mean, for me, I'm using clay, but some of them are painters, and they're using airbrushes and things like that. So different types of equipment. But for me, you know, in the course of a day, I may only make 10 pieces.
Yeah.
At the most, maybe 8 pieces. So, because I gotta be able to take this stuff home, and it's harder to handle. And an outdoor art festival never lasts more than 2 days. So, to be able to, and just, you know, you'll see, because we're doing this live, I mean in real time rather, how long it takes to make a pretty big piece.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the overall use of this at an outdoor event, I mean, I can't imagine that we're going to come close to 12 hours of, or even 8 or 10 hours of use.
Yeah, and we're at 80% battery life, and it's saying you could run this for 12 hours right now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's taking, I'm sure, a good average of what it's running at right now. Now you're down to 11, but still, like you're saying, you're.
Oh, and this is a pretty big piece.
And you're not. Are you constantly on the wheel while you're at the event?
No.
Okay.
I usually do about a piece every 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, something like that, just to kind of keep things going.
And is that just to kind of attract people as they're coming by,
That's
see
right.
what's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they kind of draw a little bit of a distinction too. I mean, you can imagine, really, if anybody could show a customer what went into making the thing that they're trying to sell,
right?
It's always good, you know.
Sure.
So for me, I'm lucky to be able to sit there and a customer will go, "Wow, okay, I connected the dots there. That was on there at one time."
Yeah.
Exactly right. You know, and invariably you always have, like, because a huge percentage of kids will do ceramics in high school, and so invariably you'll have somebody that will say, "Oh, I did that in high school. That's harder than it looks."
Yeah.
Which is great, you know.
Sure.
You know, they're kind of part of your sales team, and they didn't know it. So now I've just opened the clay. I'll open this up. Kind of hard to see from your vantage point, but trust me, there's a big hole in this clay now.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it now. I got it up a little bit.
And if you've ever been on the wheel, most people would say that the hard part's over, but. So now we're going to I slow the pedal way down. You can kind of probably see the wattage usage probably dropped a bunch.
As you start doing your detailing, you're basically slowing everything down.
Yep.
Like, that makes sense. And what are you making?
This is going to be a pitcher.
Okay. And just your sponge is putting that character on the outside, or that profile, whatever you want to call that.
It also helps to keep a little moisture there.
Like 23. Yeah, you're looking at 30
That's
out,
pretty
29
low,
hours
right?
at 78% battery life. You know, so yeah, and I would just guess that we've probably you've averaged about 40 watts, 30 to 40 watts.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it looks like you could probably do this for hours.
I'll run out of clay before I run out of. And I could, soften that whole edge up if I want. I can leave the
yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
the lines in there if I want. And then typically, come down here to the foot.
So are you going down to that? Would you call it a bat?
Yep.
Okay.
Get down there. This is the clay that it's kind of the buttress to hold this thing up while you really push out on it. Get here.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So you're just taking a wire and
So you can see just how literally soft that is.
wow.
I mean, the firing process matures the clay and then changes it into something that's closer to glass than
A liquid or a
it's as close as you can get to glass without being glass.
okay.
But that's why I like this is bisqueware, and it's ready to put glaze on. It's got this kind of still like that kind of sound to it. But
So that's out of the kiln. Then it'll go through a glaze and then back in the kiln.
that's right. Yep. And then that's once you get a stoneware piece to this level, and you get all the glaze on it. But that's when you get the.
Oh wow. So the glaze process actually changes that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's how you can tell. Like if you go to Walmart and buy a mug, it's gonna sound like that.
Okay.
But if you want to know if you've got a high quality piece of clay, that's how you do it.
Wow.
It's just got this really cool acoustic to it.
Yeah. We left the OUPES 1200 watt power station with Randy, and he actually took it to the outdoor festival he went to, and it powered his wheel all day long for hours with barely using any juice out of the battery at all. He was really ecstatic with how it worked. And as he was mentioned, he doesn't have to worry about a generator, doesn't have to worry about extension cords, things like that. He just puts the power station there, plugs directly into it. He can even shove that under his wheel, and it's really out of the way and easy to use. So he was very happy with that. Now, in addition to Randy using it, we also tested it on our light rig here, where we have a bunch of different 500 watt halogen bulbs where we can call on the power, and actually a pair of them, they don't pull 1,000, they pull right at 850. And where the OUPES 1200 watt power station claims that it will do a 3,600 watt peak, we were not able to do that. We could pull like 1,250 watts for about a minute, and then it would trip out. Every time, right around between 45 seconds and a minute, it would trip out at just 1,250 watts. Now, 1,000, it would do it forever. No problem at all. You'd hear the fan kick on after a while. But also, then we tested 2,000. And at 2,000 watts, so in other words, calling on 4 of these 500 watt halogen light bulbs at one time, it would sustain that for about 3 to 5 seconds and trip out. Not even that long, just a couple of seconds, and it would trip out every time on just say, 1,700 watts, because really, as I mentioned, 2 of them were pulling 850, so 4 of them were really only pulling about 1,700, and it would trip it out immediately. So I don't believe that it has that 3,600 watt peak capacity, but as far as being able to handle pushing out 1,200 watts, definitely does that. Now, price on this is going to run you about $8.99 for the power station alone. If you want the 200 watt solar panels, the fold out solar panels with it, it's going to run you about $12.99. You can get this on Amazon. We'll have a link in the description, so check it out for yourself. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, then give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.